Right then guys, I'm here for the 28th episode in my Stewart Manager career mode on Grand Prix World. Now I don't know how interesting this episode is going to be because the Italian Grand Prix rather sealed the fate of both championships. Well, let's have a recap. So the Italian Grand Prix, Michael Schumacher won. Damon Hill took pole position but lost the lead instantly to Michael Schumacher and then retired after only 4 laps. So a pretty dire race all in all for Damon Hill, but it wasn't just Damon Hill. More importantly, Heinz-Harald Frentzen retired after only 19 laps, and he wasn't... Well, actually, Frentzen's running is quite strange because he jumped up from 6th to 1st and then instantly retired. I have no idea how on earth that happened. He was running in 6th, moved up to 1st. I don't know how that happened. That's actually the most unlikely aspect, but then the second he leads the race, he retires. David Coulthard did finish the race and he scored points. Well, I say points, I mean a point. He finished in 6th and scored 1 point. Michael Schumacher won and scored 10, and that's the thing, is heading into the Italian Grand Prix, Coulthard was already quite far behind Schumacher in the championship anyway, so a 9-point swing in Schumacher's favour ruled out any possibility of David Coulthard winning this season's Drivers' Championship. Damon Hill is also mathematically out of it, but Frentzen is still technically in with a shot. He's 16 points behind Michael Schumacher with 2 races left to go. That should sound familiar, and that's because we saw this exact situation in 1998. Granted, it wasn't involving Schumacher and Frentzen, it was Schumacher and Häkkinen, but with 2 races left to go at the exact same point in the season, Mika Häkkinen was 16 points behind Michael Schumacher. So you'd assume the championship was nailed on for Michael Schumacher to win, but that didn't happen because, well, Häkkinen effectively needed to win the final 2 races, but even that wouldn't have been enough because as long as Michael Schumacher scored 5 points, there's nothing Häkkinen could have done. So, in the 1998 Luxembourg Grand Prix, Häkkinen won, but Schumacher only finished in 6th. So Häkkinen scored 10 points, Schumacher won, so Schumacher still had the championship lead. In the final race, Mika Häkkinen won, but as I said, in of itself, that doesn't matter. All Schumacher needed to do was finish on the podium. But he didn't finish at all. He retired from the race with a gearbox issue. So that meant in the final 2 races of the 1998 season, Mika Häkkinen scored the full 20 points and Michael Schumacher only 1. So Mika Häkkinen won the 1998 Drivers' Championship against all odds. Now I know Frentzen isn't quite as good as Mika Häkkinen, and also between 1998 and 2001 a lot in the Formula 1 world has changed, but if it could happen in 1998, there's no reason why it can't happen now. Frentzen, as unlikely as it is, he could still win this season's Drivers' Championship. There's only one active battle really going on in the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari have basically got the championship sealed up. I mean, it's possible McLaren or Benetton could overtake Ferrari, but unlikely. Certainly. McLaren and Benetton, though, tied on 85 points apiece. Now that is going to be an interesting battle. A battle between the 2 teams with 80% rated chassis. And I'll be talking about the chassis ratings later on in this episode because Ferrari have got a 40% rated chassis, or certainly they started off the season with a 40% rated chassis, let's not forget. But I'll be talking about that a bit more later on in the episode. Stewart are 10 points ahead of Williams, so we're fairly safe for 4th in the championship. Williams have got 5th wrapped up because Jordan are 23 points behind them. Tyrrell have got 7th, I mean there's no way they're going to be scoring 9 points. 10 points even, really, ideally. 10 points in the final 2 races when they've only got 2 in the past 14 races. And no other team, it would be miraculous if Arrows or Sauber or Prost scored points. It really would be miraculous. Minardi are the most likely of the teams that haven't scored points that could, but not only is it unlikely, possible, but unlikely that they'll score a point, they've got to score 2 to tie with Tyrrell and 3 to overtake him. So That's really unlikely. I think all of those teams are going to end the season pointless. Third time is not the charm for us. The FIA have now rejected for the third time our level 2 power brake designs. We copied one from Ferrari, then we submitted one in the previous episode, submitted another one. They don't want to know. So I really do not know why I'm bothering, but I may as well start a new design. I mean, my design department won't really be doing much else. I have also got a performance upgrade for the electronics, and I may as well work on improving the reliability, so then we'll have 4-star rated performance and reliability components in the next season. So yes, we'll get working on that, 15% of the staff. And one other thing which I do want to mention is another upgrade provided to us by our engine supplier Mercedes. So we've got the second model, and just about in time for the Luxembourg Grand Prix. Technically, the supplier's Mercedes' second home event, even though it is counted as the Luxembourg Grand Prix, it is at the Nürburgring. And the third model engine has been improved by 1 in reliability, and I believe, yes, 2 in responsiveness. So let's head off to Germany for the Luxembourg Grand Prix and find out whether either or both championships are wrapped up in this, the second to last race in the 2001 season. Schumacher's taken pole position for his second home race of the season. Now you can tell it was a dry qualifying session because Damon Hill qualified down in 4th, and a Lacey I can't even see, you have to scroll down to get to a Lacey, but more importantly, Tor Takaki qualified in 7th. Now that's pretty good going for us. Both of our drivers, Deniz in 6th, Takaki in 7th, both of our drivers beat Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, the only remaining driver who can beat Schumacher in the championship, and he qualified down in 8th. His teammate Moreira qualified in 3rd. So just to run down through the qualifying positions, Michael Schumacher is on pole, then you've got Coulthard, Moreira, Hill, Fisichella, Deniz, Takaki, Frentzen, Herbert, Irvine, Salo, Montemini, Tuero. Then the big question is, where is Jean Lacey? He's in 15th, beaten even by Ricardo Rosset. Then you've got Nakano, Magnussen, Zonta, Trulli, Sarazan, Wirtz, and wow, Collard. Initially, I thought Collard didn't meet the 107% time. He did, it's just he's been banned after qualifying, presumably for using an illegal driver aid. And actually, if Rosset is also running it, that could explain how Ricardo Rosset qualified in 14th and beat Jean Lacey in a Jordan. Oh, hang on a second. Moreira won the 2001 Luxembourg Grand Prix. Coulthard 2nd, Hill 3rd, Frentzen 4th. Schumacher didn't score a point. Hang on a second. So Frentzen scored 3 points. No, that's not enough. No, that's not enough. So yeah, sure, Michael Schumacher didn't finish the race, but he still won the 2001 Drivers' Championship. Moreira won his second race of the season. Scratch that, second race ever. David Coulthard leads a McLaren 2-3, and then you've got Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 4th. Takaki was beaten by Frentzen by 0.3 of a second. Even still, he scored 2 points for the team, and he beat Giancarlo Fisichella in a Ferrari. Johnny Herbert finished in 7th, then you've got Deniz in 8th, splitting the two Williams drivers as Tuero finished in 9th. Then you've got both Tyrrells led by Salo, Jean Lacey in 12th, Nakano in 13th, and then, well, Michael Schumacher retiring from the race, as did Ricardo Rosset and Irvine and Sarazan and Trulli. Ferrari may have dodgy electronics, but Michael Schumacher, despite not even finishing the race, won the championship. And actually, I will have a look and see where he was running when he retired. I'm going to guess probably 1st. Both championships speak for themselves, don't they? I don't really think there's too much I can add. Drivers' Championship, no major changes, so far as I can see. I mean, certainly, there's now only 1 point separating Damon Hill and David Coulthard. And in the Constructors' Championship, well, Benetton now lead McLaren by 3 points. Actually, Ferrari only lead the Constructors' Championship by 6 points. 6 points ahead of Benetton, 9 ahead of McLaren. It's back to being a three-way fight. The lap-by-lap breakdown of the Luxembourg Grand Prix makes for interesting reading and also complicated reading at times, as we can see. I mean, this is effectively a battle between both Stewart and both Benetton drivers. Just very confusingly graphicized. Is that a word? Graphically represented. That's a term. Anyway, Michael Schumacher led the entirety of the race for as far as we can see, and then another 10 laps. Moreira rose up the order, took the lead of the race away from Michael Schumacher, then Schumacher took it back, then Moreira crashes down the order. Well, I say crashes, he does go down the order. But point being, Michael Schumacher, in fact that's car number 5, that's David Coulthard, took the lead of the race from Michael Schumacher, and then Schumacher took the lead of the race again on lap 50, but 56, that's when he retired. And as I suspected, Michael Schumacher was leading the race when he retired. Just an aside, because this is always interesting to mention, Eddie Jordan has been named as the worst F1 manager, and the best F1 manager, Ron Dennis. Okay, slightly less predictable than Jean Todt, but then again, given the Grand Prix we just had, if Jean Todt was given Manager of the Month, I don't know what I would have done. Jean Todt totally didn't deserve it, but then again, that doesn't stop him winning the Manager of the Month award pretty much every other race. But then again, whenever Jean Todt doesn't win it, Ron Dennis does. It is incredibly rare someone other than Ron Dennis or Jean Todt is named as the best manager. I'm really hoping for a wet race because firstly, I did some testing to get some setup points and I put them all into the car's wet weather ability. So if we have got a wet Japanese Grand Prix, and that's the thing, is it's more likely to rain in Japan than it is at pretty much any other country we visit. I think barring the Belgian and British Grand Prix, the Japanese Grand Prix is the one most likely to be rain affected. So the setup of the cars represents that. Point number 2, we've got an improved intermediate compound tyre. So here's our second one as it stands, and there you go. A big upgrade. But I thought I'd check to see whether Goodyear have provided a further upgrade to any of their tyres, because, well, actually, to be fair, the supplied parts screen seems to be slightly glitched because it's only showing the intermediate tyre improvement for the Goodyear tyres, and it's not showing any improvement for any other supplier. But as you can see on that screen, Goodyear have got a 4th model intermediate tyre which is close to perfect. Perfect grip, perfect resilience, perfect stiffness, and I think it's even slightly better in temperature. I mean, our intermediate tyre is pretty good, but Goodyear have got one that's even better, but they're not giving it to us. To be fair though, we are only a customer team, so that's not a major surprise anyway. Really hoping for a wet Grand Prix, confirm the assembly, and let's head over to Suzuka, Japan for the 2001 Japanese Grand Prix, the final race of this 2001 season. Oh yes, this is a fantastic start. A heavy rain qualifying session. Wow, oh wow, Damon Hill is on pole position, but in second place is Pedro Diniz. Pedro Diniz was quicker in a heavy rain qualifying session than Michael Schumacher. Jean Alesi in 4th, Diniz beat the pair of them. Giancarlo Fisichella in 5th, Frentzen 6th, Coulthard 7th, Takaki in 8th. That's pretty good going considering normally when we have a rain affected qualifying session, Takaki qualifies in about 15th. Even still, 2.7 seconds separates Diniz from Takaki. Then you've got Mika Salo in 9th, Moreira down in 10th, then Irvine, Herbert, Wirtz, and down at the bottom, has Magnussen actually qualified? No, he hasn't. Yet again, Magnussen, seemingly the worst or one of the worst drivers in the rain. Whoever would have guessed that, but anyway, Magnussen didn't qualify within the 107% time, and yet again, the stewards have deemed him not quick enough. Is that how they deem it? Whatever, they certainly have decided he will not be allowed to take part in the race. And Andrea Montemini has been banned after qualifying, so Tyrrell using an illegal driver aid. Oh no, what a letdown! We had a heavy rain qualifying session, but a completely dry race. Now that's actually incredibly disappointing. There's no excitement, no build-up. Michael Schumacher won, there you go, so Ferrari have... Yeah, they must have done. Ferrari have won the 2001 Constructors' Championship. Heinz Alfredson finished in second, David Coulthard third. Pedro Diniz, in his final race for Stewart, finished in fourth place, and only 6.2 seconds behind race winner Michael Schumacher. Diniz crossed the line 13 seconds ahead of Fisichella. Then you've got Moreira and Seb taking the final points place. Damon Hill therefore didn't score a single point. Neither did John Lacey, neither did Johnny Herbert in fact. Johnny Herbert for Williams in 9th. What on earth happened to Williams over the course of this season? Granted, Johnny Herbert did finish second in the Italian Grand Prix, but that aside, what happened to Williams? Because at the start of the season, we were pretty much on a par with them. If not, they might have even been slightly better. I mean, certainly they posed some very tough opposition for us, but as the season's gone on, that has well and truly faded. I mean, there were a couple of points in this season where I felt like Williams were going to beat us in the Constructors' Championship. I thought they were going to get 4th, we'd get 5th. Now, they struggle to score points. I mean, I don't know. I know we've got a 78% rated chassis because we've continually improved our chassis and much else besides. And I do get the impression Williams have stood still, or certainly haven't improved at anywhere near the same rate as us. And by the looks of it, it's not even as if Williams are focused on improving their reliability over their performance, as Esteban Tuero retired from the race and nobody knows why. Takaki also retired, and that is a really sad way to end his final race with the Stewart team, because Takaki this season has been extraordinary. I'm not going to talk through how both championships ended because we already know how they ended. There weren't any major changes as a result of this Grand Prix, but I do just want to quickly sing the praises of my drivers, Diniz and Takaki. Both of them have been exceptional. Pedro Diniz, 22 points he scored for the team. Truly brilliant. I cannot fault his performance, but he was overshadowed by Tora Takaki. Takaki scored 5 more points than Diniz, and on paper Takaki is the worst of the two drivers. I mean, the only downside is that Tora Takaki was utterly useless in the rain. But that aside, Tora Takaki has been phenomenal this year. He's excelled himself, he's excelled the team, and it is going to be sad to see both him and Pedro Diniz leave us at the end of this season, because both Tora Takaki and Pedro Diniz, I cannot thank them enough because they contributed 49 points to the team. 49 points. That's easily a new record for Stewart and got us 4th in the Constructors' Championship. I'm going to be sad to see both Tora Takaki and Pedro Diniz leave us. Since we are looking at the end of season championship standings, now would be the ideal time to talk about chassis ratings. Now, I've already talked about it before. It's quite simple in theory, because the chassis rating is just reflected by your chief designer. So if you've got a 1-star chief designer, you have a 20% rated chassis, 2-star 40%, 3-star 60%, 4-star 80%, and 5-star I believe would be 100%. Logically, that would be the case. Although I don't think I've ever had a 5-star chief designer. Anyway, point being, that's it. That's all you need to know, and of course, that is with the proviso that you fully complete your design before the season is done. However, I did have a comment in between that massive gap in time between uploading the 26th episode and the 27th episode. I got a comment from someone saying, "Are you sure Ferrari have got a 40% rated chassis?" And it's a fair point because Ferrari have done exceptionally well. Michael Schumacher won the 2001 Drivers' Championship. I know for a while it looked like Frentzen was going to win it, but at the end of the day, Schumacher won it. And even if you discount Schumacher because he is a freak of nature. Even if you discount him, Fisichella, in a 40% rated chassis, finished 6th in the Drivers' Championship. So, it is a fair point. Am I sure Ferrari have got a 40% rated chassis? Because I believe there are some versions of the game, or certainly you can mod the game to have it so that your chief designer and technical director, their combined rating affects the chassis rating. So if you've got, well, let's say Ferrari, that's the thing, is Ferrari in this career mode had, last season they had a 2-star rated chief designer, hence the 40% rated chassis, but they had a 4-star rated technical director, and the question was, are you sure Ross Brawn didn't influence Ferrari's chassis rating? Because that would explain why Ferrari are doing so well. So I checked to see which version of the game I'm running, and I did that by going through 2 different career modes. The first one was with Williams, just a bog standard Williams career mode in 1998, because Williams start off with a 3-star rated chief designer and a 4-star rated technical director. And I completed the chassis, completed the design, and lo and behold, in 1999 I started off with a 60% rated chassis. Seemingly Patrick Head had no influence on the chassis rating. And that's just one career mode. There is another one, because before I ever started this series on YouTube, I did do a career mode with Stewart, just to learn the game, learn how it worked, and, you know, just so I would be competent and know what I was doing before I started this series. And it just so happens, when I abandoned playing through that career mode, I had Neil Oatley as my chief designer, 3-star rated, and John Bernard as my technical director, 4-star rated. So I completed that season, and again I produced a 60% rated chassis. So again, John Bernard, 4-star rated, he had nothing to do with it. They must have started this season with a 40% rated chassis. And that's incredible, honestly. I mean, I know they can improve it, and knowing Ferrari, they almost certainly did, because they've got the money and the resources and the people to improve their chassis. But even still, the best, the absolute best, their chassis can be rated right now is 58%. That's 2% worse than ours started off. Well, let me just recap the chassis ratings, because Benetton and McLaren are the 2 teams with 80% rated chassis. Then you've got Jordan, Prost and Sauber supposedly, but Jordan, Prost, Sauber, Stewart, Tyrrell and Williams all potentially could have had 60% rated chassis. Ferrari started off this season with a worse chassis than every other team except Minardi, which had an equally poor chassis, and Arrows, well, Arrows were doomed from the start. I mean, what on earth can you do with a 20% rated chassis? I mean, I know there's question marks over Prost and Sauber because they could have had a 60% rated chassis, but those teams were stuck in the doldrums all season long. I really doubt their chassis was actually rated 60%. They probably weren't able to complete the design. God knows what happened, but I dare say it wasn't 60% rated. Anyway, it's irrelevant how Ferrari's chassis compared to Prost or Sauber's. Their chassis should have been half as good as Benetton's and McLaren's. And both of those teams are set up decently well. They've got good drivers, good supplied parts. Ferrari, I know they've got to work still with Ford so they can improve the Ford engine. And, of course, they can improve their chassis to go up from 40% to 58%. But, then again, Benetton and McLaren both easily could improve their chassis to go up from 80% to 98%. I mean, we improved our chassis to go up from 60% to 78%. That's us. So if we can improve our chassis by 18% over the course of the season, Benetton and McLaren definitely can. Ferrari should be able to as well. So that doesn't explain why Ferrari were quicker in the first place. I mean, certainly Ferrari did seem to get better as the season went on. Michael Schumacher certainly did. I mean, the number of race wins he got in the second half of the season speaks volumes. But I do not understand how Ferrari were that quick. I mean, even if they didn't win the championship, even if they got the runner-up spot, how? How could they be competitive when they've got a chassis half as good as Benetton's and McLaren's? I really don't get it. That's the thing, is Ferrari have pulled off a miracle, and it's not just Michael Schumacher. I mean, Michael Schumacher is basically a god. In this game, he well and truly is, but even Fisichella Fisichella 6th in the championship, 36 points. That's incredible. Ferrari won the Constructors' Championship, Michael Schumacher won the Drivers' Championship, and quite frankly, how they've been able to do that is, to a large extent, a mystery. As a result of the Japanese Grand Prix, Frank Williams was named the worst manager of the month, and Jean Todt, predictably, the manager of the month. And how does that translate into the Manager of the Year awards? Tom Walkinshaw has been named Worst Manager of the Year, and Jean Todt, predictably, Formula 1 Manager of the Year. What a brilliant year it has been for Stewart. 4th in the Constructors' Championship, 7th and 9th in the Drivers' Championship. I've already sung the praises of Takaki and Diniz, I'm going to be sad to see them go, but Stefano Domenicali, he's transformed the commercial department of this team well and truly. I mean, he's taken it up quite a few notches. We're in a different league commercially. Firstly, a team sponsorship deal. That is a massive step up. We're getting tens of millions of dollars more just from that one deal. And that's a deal which is even more impressive than I first thought, and I'll be talking about that in the next episode. But it is a shame actually that we won't be reaping the benefits of Domenicali's hard work until he's left the team. And it's not even just about the money, because he's got us a works deal with Mercedes-Benz and a works deal with Michelin. It's a shame I wasn't able to keep him on board in the team. I desperately wanted to, but he had other plans, he had other ideas, and that's a shame. But certainly for the next season, possibly even the season after that, we're in good shape, thanks to Stefano Domenicali. But let's stop talking and hypothesizing about the 2002 season. Let's get into it. I am incredibly excited because we could potentially, I'm not going to guarantee it, but potentially we could well win a championship next season. Look at that for a team. Harvey Postlethwaite, Mike Gascoigne, Paul Diggins, David Warren as the successor to Stefano Domenicali, but even still, that is a fairly decent setup. But for the first time since 1998, we've got some decent drivers. Alexander Wurz, although he's annoyed with the team already, you can tell by that red X, so I don't know what we've done to upset him already, but Alexander Wurz, he's been fantastic in this career mode to date. I am so glad to have him on board. And Heinz-Harald Frentzen, another fantastic driver who's been brilliant in this career mode to date. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next episode where we start off the 2002 Formula 1 season.